everybody. We're inside today. It's Lit Soc Thursday. Sadly, we're not outside because there is a storm coming in. Apparently, it's so bad that Sutton Hoo in Suffolk have had to close tomorrow and are having to book everybody. So that must be pretty bad. It's not like we've got anything outside that's not nailed down. Anyway, so sad about that. But today we're talking about World Bee Day. And all the books that and things that we can think of to do with bees, and also the Woman's Prize, because we haven't yet talked about the shortlist, which is out, and
we have it here.
We have it there, and we have past winners as well. The Bears are dear Paddington, and the Bears are looking after the books, and that will be awarded later in the year. And we've got the teapot, as everybody who meets it and hasn't met it before. It's a very big teapot, but we all know that it is a big teapot. So I'm going to start with perhaps the earliest, well, not quite the earliest, but certainly an early poem on bees by Virgil from our Penguin Classics Latin Literature and Anthology. Oh yes, Penguin, perhaps you could oblige with answering my letter at some point. Next I come to the manor, the heavenly gift of honey. Look kindly on this part too, my friend. I'll tell of a tiny republic that makes a show well worth your admiration. Great-hearted leaders, a whole nation whose work is planned, their morals grouped defences, I'll tell you in due order. A featherweight theme, but one that can load me with fame, if only no wicked fairy cross me, and the song god come to my call. For a start, you must find your bees a suitable home, a position sheltered from wind, for wind will stop them carrying home their forage. A close where sheep nor goats come butting in to jump on the flowers, nor blundering heifer stray to flick the dew from the meadow and stamp its sprigging grasses down. Discourage the lizard too with his lapis lazuli back from their rich folds, the bee-eater and other birds, and the swallow whose breast was once blooded by a killer's hand, for these wreak wholesale havoc. Snap up your bees on the wing and bear them off as a titbit for their ungentle nestlings. But mine there's a bubbling spring nearby, a pool moss-bordered and a rill ghosting through the grass. See too that a palm or tall oleaster shadow the entrance. For thus, when the new queens lead out the earliest swarms, the spring all theirs, and the young bees play from hive unprisoned, the bank may be handy to welcome them in out of the heat, and the tree meet them halfway and make them at home in its foliage. And it goes on for an awful lot more lines. Yes, and then it's all about the farm as well. And yes, it does actually mention the queens, which is good.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's my first contribution.
Yes.
Indeed. Right, Mr. Humphries, would you like to talk about something?
Thank you.
There we go.
So I'll start with this book that I'd not read before today, but I came across it when I was browsing. Always good to browse library shelves because you never know what you stumble across when you do. And I came across this, A Sting in the Tail by Dave Golson, and it's about bees, and I think it's about the short-haired bumblebee in particular, which of course are no longer in this country. And it's sort of like it's a memoir. It's also about the gloriousness of bees and just bee life in general, really. And I picked out this little section to read, and this is from his A Brief History of Bees. So, and I'll fast forward to what he says about this. So he wrote this back in 2013. So now we arrive at the present day. The world is blessed with an extraordinary diversity of species of organism. About 1.4 million have been named so far, but estimates as the true total vary hugely from 2 million to 100 million. 250 of the known species are bumblebees. There may be a few more yet to be found in remote regions, but probably not many. There are about 25,000 known species of bee, but many more undoubtedly remain to be discovered, particularly in the tropical regions. Bees in turn belong to the immensely successful insect order, the Hymenoptera, if I'm saying that right, which also includes ants and wasps, from which bees evolved, of which there are 115,000 known species. The Hymenoptera, in turn, are just one of the many types of insects, collectively the most successful group of organisms on Earth, with about 1 million named species, or about 70% of all known species on Earth. So far, only 3 bumblebees are thought to have gone extinct globally, but surely more will follow. It's the threat of extinction of large mammals such as tigers or rhinoceros that tends to capture the public's attention, but arguably it is the loss of the smaller creature that should give us most concern. Insects are responsible for delivering numerous ecosystem services, such as pollination and decomposition, and there is no doubt that little life on Earth, including ourselves, could survive without them. As the famous biologist E.O. Wilson said, if all mankind were to disappear, the world would regenerate back to the rich state of equilibrium that existed 10,000 years ago. If insects were to vanish, the environment would collapse into chaos. Appreciate the bees. This is why we need World Bee Day. So this book looks fun. It was shortlisted for the Samuel Johnson Prize for non-fiction as well. So and it's in our biology section. So that was for you, Mrs. Patel.
Yes, Mrs. Ord.
And Mrs. Ord. Yes, indeed.
It was Mrs. Patel's research that found this out.
Indeed. And I had an assembly on it as well.
Yes, indeed.
Right, Miss Rio, over to you.
Well, I'm currently reading this one, Starless Sea.
Starless Sea.
And as you can see, a bee is right on the front.
Author is
Erin Morgenstern. Is that how you say it? Morgenstern?
Best known
Yeah,
for
the Night
Circus.
Circus. This isn't explicitly about bees, but the symbol of a bee features very heavily in the book. It crops up a lot. Essentially,
it's an imperial symbol, isn't it? Because Napoleon has them all over Fontainebleau. What their poem's really about, the Republic, is also about before Rome, before the Empire, but also talking about Augustus as well.
Yeah, it's just interesting. It's such a recognisable image, isn't it? The bee, and it crops up so much. And it's an important part of this book. I'm only about halfway through, but essentially it's about a boy who stumbles across a book hidden in his university library, and as he starts reading it, he realises it's the story of something that happened to him in his own childhood.
Oh, okay.
And he found a door. This isn't spoiling too much. It happens right at the beginning. He finds the painting of a door near his flat in New Orleans, and it has the symbols of a key, a bee, and a sword, as you can see on the side.
Wow, that's
yeah,
nice.
it's so cool.
Yeah.
On the door, and he becomes sort of really fascinated by this door, but then he thinks it's just painting, and he leaves, and the next day he comes and it's been painted over, and he sort of forgets about it until he rereads it in this book.
Okay.
And he doesn't know if maybe someone watched him find the door or what. He has no idea, but the story leads him to believe that maybe the door was a real door and it led to some sort of magical world, and he missed out on an opportunity, because the story sort of says, if only the boy had opened the door, things like that, and he reads it and thinks, what is going on? And I don't want to say too much to spoil it, but essentially he tries to find the origin of this book, and the bee symbol is a big part of the mystery to the story in the door that he finds.
Perhaps you'll find out more.
Yeah,
when you...
exactly. But I'm reading at the moment, so it's quite apt to talk about it now.
Yes, and it feels like there's a reason that's on the cover. So
yeah,
it
must.
to come.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really enjoying it. It's very magical realism.
Yeah, well,
the
Night Circus. Yes, I'm not surprised to hear
yeah, but it's a book about books. It's about the love of books and magic libraries and things like that. So I definitely recommend it.
The universal memory that is the library.
Exactly,
yes.
but yes,
the hive that is the library.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Maybe that's why the bees.
Yes, indeed.
But yeah, a big part of the book is the bee symbol.
Yeah, I haven't gone to Kew on
Saturday.
Thank you very much. The hive sculpture, which is based on a hive, sadly wasn't open. It's open again now, I think, but we couldn't go there.
Is that the one that you stand in and you can hear them?
You hear it, don't you? I think.
Yeah, great. That's great.
Yeah, I really enjoyed our trip. It was raining, so we didn't see many bees, but they were around.
Quite nice being there in the rain.
And this is a really good reason not to mow your lawn this May. No mow May, as they say, because that encourages insects and bees. Okay. I know everybody perhaps doesn't like dandelions, but they are a good thing.
Yeah, just because they're nominally a little, unesthetically pleasing. So you've got to look beyond that.
Indeed, yes.
Don't have your pristine English country garden lawn,
Yeah.
Okay, shall I talk about
Shakespeare?
Secret Life of Bees?
Bees, yeah, sure.
This is something that Sue, my kid, who I really like, The Secret Life of Bees. It has its roots, I suppose, in To Kill a Mockingbird, but it's very different as well. Very, very different. But it's set in the South. Lily has grown up believing she accidentally killed her mother when she was just 4 years old. Now at 14, she yearns for forgiveness and a mother's love. Living on a peach farm in South Carolina with her harsh and unyielding father, she has only one friend, Rosaline, a black servant. When racial tension explodes one summer afternoon and Rosaline is arrested and beaten, Lily is compelled to act. So this is basically the early 60s, before the Civil Rights Movement. Fugitives from justice, the pair follow a trail left by the woman who died 10 years before. Finding sanctuary in the home of 3 beekeeping sisters, Lily starts a journey as much about her understanding of the world as about the mystery surrounding her mother. There is so much in this book, apart from bees and honey. There really is. We learn about beekeeping. That's the uncapper over there, where we take the wax off the comb, then it goes through the wax melter over here. It's complicated looking after bees, I can tell you. This is the spinner. It separates out the honey. Takes out the bad stuff, leaves in the good. I've always thought how nice it would be to have spinners like this for human beings. Just toss them in and let the spinner do its work. Mrs. Foster's husband keeps bees. And sad tragedy over the winter because both hives died, but they do tend to, they're not very strong at the moment with the veromite. So he's got new ones now, and they've arrived and were really rolling around when I was last there, so that's lovely. Aristaeus was the first keeper of bees. One day all his bees died, punishment by the gods for something bad that Aristaeus had done. The gods told him to sacrifice a bull to show he was sorry, and then return to the carcass in 9 days and look inside it. When Aristaeus did just what he said, and when he came back he saw a swarm of bees fly out of the dead bull, his own bees reborn. He took them home to his hives, and after that people believed that bees had power over death. The kings in Greece made their tombs in the shape of beehives for that reason. These are up my Sinai, the tombs in the shape of beehives. I've been there, and they are extraordinary. But when a bee flies, a soul will rise. This is a lovely book. It's got a lot to say about relationships and people, forgiveness, and the mystic healing of bees. And you have to be polite to bees. You have to tell them what you're up to. Madam Bees, we are on our way to. Or, Madam Bees, this is what I'm doing. If there's any news in the family, you have to tell the bees what's happening. Okay. And the book we haven't got on the table, because I don't think we've got a copy in this library, we might have it in the junior girls, is Linnets and Valerians by Elizabeth Googe. And the the great uncle, I think, who keeps bees in his rectory garden. He has to teach the children how to look after the bees. He always has an owl called Hector, who lives at the top of the Parthenon, which is the top of the grandfather clock, and you have to say, Madam Bees, this is what's going on. Going to, and they come with you and protect you. It's a lovely story. Yeah. So, anything else?
Well,
yes,
so we have Caroline Duffy, don't we? The bees. Now, this was her first collection as poet laureate that she had, and woven
it's a lovely one.
It is. Woven and weaving through the book is its presiding spirit of the bee. Sometimes the bee is Duffy's subject, sometimes it strays into the poem or hovers at its edge. In the end, Duffy's point is clear. The bee symbolises what we have left of grace in the world, and what is most precious and necessary for us to protect. So, it's glorious. And it won the Costa Prize of Poetry in 2011 as well. So I'll just read. Oh, also it was dedicated to Gillian Clark as well.
Oh yes, they're great friends. Lovely.
And it's in Welsh here. So I've got reading it.
Go on then. We challenge you.
I, Gillian Clark, bardd cenedlaethol Cymru, mam gi anrhyddus ac arbenigela am ffrind anwyl I. Something to do about being my friend every year. That's as much as I can understand.
It's more than we
So I'll read. Bees are the batteries of orchids' gardens. Guard them. Virgil's bees.
Ah.
So let's just read Here are my bees. Bees. Here are my bees, brazen, blurs on paper, besotted, buzzwords dancing their flawless, airy maps. Been deep, my poet bees, in the parts of flowers, in daffodil, thistle, rose, even the golden lotus. So glide, gilded, glad, golden, thus, wise, and know of us, how your sense pervades my shadowed, busy heart, and honey is art. That's just the first poem. And yeah, as it says, they are involved into various extents. So, we've got Virgil's bees here. Shall I read that one?
Yes, do. As a compliment to the other one.
Absolutely. Virgil's bees. Bless ears gifts of sweetness, honey from the bees, inspired by clover, marigold, eucalyptus, thyme, the 100 perfumes of the wind. Bless the beekeeper, who chooses for her hives a sightly water, violet beds, no hue, no echo. Let the light lilt leak green or gold, pigment for queens, and joy be inexplicable, but there, in harmony of willow herb and stream, of summer heat and breeze, each bee's body as its brilliant flower, lover stunned, strumming on fragrance, smitten. For this, let gardens grow where beelines end, sighing in roses, saffron blooms, buddleia, where bees pray on their knees, sing praise in pear trees, plum trees. Bees are the batteries of orchids, gardens, guard them.
Absolutely. Yes.
So yeah.
Because of the pollination,
Absolutely.
not because of the honey. Vegans, of course, don't eat honey because it's stealing from the food from the bees' mouths. It's lovely.
So a nice poetic choice.
Very nice. It's Caroline Duffy is just wonderful.
Cheers.
So I've got one from a poet called Valerie Gillies, who I came across on the Poetry Archive. If you don't know the Poetry Archive, it's amazing. It is something that Andrew Motion began when he was Poet Laureate, and it's there now. Poets reading their own poems, poetry to read as you listen to it. And this is called Honeybee in the Hambridges. We sail to the Gavalax with an autumn wind along the string of islands. Heading out over the waves, a honeybee lands on the guardrail of the yacht. Ginger brown and banded, he is a lost forager who travels with us, resting to regain strength. Where the gap is navigable, we put in at a place of sheltered creek and grassy hollow. A few steps, and we drink at the miraculous well of sweet water, dashed by salt spray. The beehive cells nearby are circles of stone, overlapping slabs, a domed roof. It takes a whole rocky island to make a single drop of honey. How far to fly? A solitary bee arrives who grips the hazel rod rim of a coracle till he flies off and rapidly to find the golden honeycomb. Now this is in the Hambridges, but when I was teaching Skellig last time to the current 8C, one of the things that David Armand used in Skellig was the name Skellig, and Skellig Michael is an island off the Irish coast, and on there are beehive cells for monks, and they used it in the first remake of Star Wars, not the Phantom Menace, but the new ones.
Oh, what?
What are they called? What's the first one?
The new... Force Awakens, right? Is it?
Yeah.
Is that episode 7? Is it called that? I'm not convinced.
Yes, it would be episode 7. It would be episode 7 anyway.
Episode 7, yeah.
And it's right at the end of the film. Plot spoiler here, but when they've gone looking for somebody and they discover that Luke is living in these cells.
Yeah.
And so David Armand's been really beautifully clever, because although the book is set in the northeast, to do with the Angel of the North, there's this sense of angels and bees and with it, so winged things. Yeah.
David Armand is very, very wonderful.
He's very wonderful. Yeah, he is.
And he's a reminder, and many of them are indeed set in the northeast.
Yeah.
His stomping grounds.
Yes.
I think that might be it,
I
for
think.
bees. So we can move. Should we move on to the
move on to the women's prize. Yes.
So,
So there's the
you want to start
shortlist.
with this year's shortlist? So
We'll start with this year's shortlist. Yes.
I know that both of you read this one. So
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Thank
and I know
you.
you've read this one,
I did.
and I've read this one. So I guess who wants to start?
Oh, do you want to start?
Sure. I finished this one yesterday. Transcendent Kingdom by Yao Gyasi. She also wrote Homegoing. Have you read that?
No.
And this is essentially about a girl who is doing a PhD in addiction in animals, the science of addiction. So she's sort of studying. I know, not what you'd expect. She's a Ghanaian woman, but she's that's essentially what she's studying, because her brother, when he was a teenager, suffered from addiction after an injury, and he got addicted to the painkillers, and it's sort of something that's haunted her life and her family since then. And she just wants to understand addiction a little bit more, so she tests it in mice and rats.
Okay, yes. Yes.
You know, when they'd press the button to get a treat.
Oh yeah.
It's something
Yeah.
that she it's not exactly clear because it jumps between lots of different time periods. She gives them something, it would either be a treat or a shock, and they become addicted to the treats. And she sort of works out whether they're willing to take the electric shock just for in case they might get a treat.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
yes.
sort of, and she studies what that does to their mental state and things. It's quite fascinating, but it's basically, essentially, to make up for what happened to her and deal with what happened to her. And yeah, her mother suffered a lot after what happened to her brother, and it jumps between her when she's living in, I'm pretty sure it's Ghana.
Oh, right,
So she's
okay.
Ghanaian, isn't
She's
she?
Ghanaian,
But now
yeah.
she's living in another country. Right?
Alabama, yeah. Sorry, I didn't make that clear.
Alabama.
Ghana to Alabama.
Yeah, it's a
Interesting.
book that really jumps a lot. It doesn't have like a chronological story, so it's sort of, it was not a difficult read, but I read it very quickly, but you kind of
Compelling
have to
read,
piece
then.
it. Yeah, it was compelling. Yeah,
Okay.
you sort of have to piece it all together bit by bit because it jumps between. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked Homegoing more, I think.
So is it worthy to be on the shortlist?
I'm not sure. It's a tricky one. There was a lot to it that I loved.
Yes.
You know, her relationship with her mother being very Ghanaian, essentially, and her growing up in Alabama, and the difference in their kind of culture and their ideas about religion.
There's a lot to say about that, because this is done quite a lot in literature, isn't it? When the immigrant experience, if you are born or grown up in another country, versus your parents' upbringing and their cultural values.
Yeah, so there's a lot about that, and how she dealt with her brother's death versus how her mother dealt with her brother's death.
Yes, I can see why it's on the shortlist.
Yeah, so it was a good read in that sense. There wasn't a lot of story to it, if that makes sense.
You want to read a 69?
Sure.
It's
it's quite a hard book to
69 for a
explain.
long time.
No.
I'll do the same. Fine.
Let's see. Every page doesn't have page numbers on, which was...
Oh, I'll make it easy for you then. It's
I
real.
know. It was a bit strange when I was reading it, so let's see.
Well, she is very prolific. Homegoing made waves, didn't it?
I loved Homegoing.
So, I'm not saying that's why she's on the shortlist, but
no,
it was seen as a seminal book. Well,
yeah.
Maybe not seminal, but certainly an important book. So
I can imagine this would resonate with a lot of people who have had that sort of experience and maybe have family members who think differently about the world than they do. That so I can see why, for that reason, it was very popular.
Yeah.
I'll start from halfway down the page because it carries on.
Sure.
My mother kept apologising to the other chaperones and sending me a look that I knew well. It was her, "I cannot beat you in front of all these white people, but just you wait look." I didn't care. If a beating was inevitable, why stop? I spent the last 15 minutes of the bus ride shouting the wheels on the bus while the soccer team plugged their ears and groaned. Nana ignored me. Nana's her brother.
Okay.
By that point, he was an expert at that. 2 referees in impractical cowboy hats waited for us as we pulled into the parking lot of the soccer fields. The boys and their parents rushed off the bus, no doubt eager to get away from me, but I had already stopped my singing and returned to my calmer, more peaceful self. Nana was seated next to the emergency exit window, his head leaned against the red bar in a way that looked uncomfortable. "Come on, Nana," some of the kids said as they made their way out, but Nana didn't get up from the seat. He lightly banged his head against that red bar over and over and over until everyone left, and it was finally just the three of us, my mother, Nana and me. My mother squeezed into the seat beside Nana and pulled me up onto her lap. She took his chin in her hand and turned him to face her. "Nana, what's bothering you?" she said in Twi. I don't know what that language is.
In Twi.
Twi, Twi, Twi.
Oh,
that's the Ghanaian.
Yeah,
Is that Ghanaian?
yeah.
It comes up quite a lot in this book as well.
Yeah, that's got to be it.
Yeah. Nana had tears in the corner of his eyes that were threatening to spill, and he was making a face that I've only ever seen in young boys, a face that is a facade of a man, hiding a boy who has grown up far too fast. I've seen that faux tough look on boys as they pushed shopping carts, walked siblings to school, bought cigarettes for their parents who waited in their cars. It breaks my heart now to see that face, to recognise the lie of masculinity sitting atop the shoulders of a young child. It's great.
Some
it's heavy
strong
going.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Heavy going.
Yeah, heavy
right.
going.
Well, if that's typical of it, then yeah, it's not a light read, is it? But I suppose probably the same for all of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of themes and just the plot, it sounds like it's pretty.
Yeah, race, addiction, immigrant experience. That's more or less what it's all about. But the theme through it is her dealing with her brother and his death. And so
it sounds interesting.
It was interesting. Yeah, it's really hard to explain. It's definitely the sort of one you need to read because
it sounds like it's literary with a capital L.
She's an interesting character as well. The main character, Gifty, she's called. She's like a really strong character, but also not a very strong character at the same time. If that's what I mean, if you know what I mean. Like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. She doesn't really.
That's a good thing. She's a complex protagonist.
Yeah, she is. A lot of her feelings are based on her experience, not really how she's actually feeling. Does that make sense? It's sort of she's sort of made
trying to get herself out of her own head almost.
Sort of, yes.
As if she's a bystander commenting on her to try and protect herself emotionally. I'm
sort of. No, yeah,
I'm making this to be honest, but
yeah. So she doesn't have a particularly strong personality. Her personality doesn't come through a lot, but it does based on how she's narrating what's happened to her and why she's doing what she does. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think I hear you on this.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, give it a read and you'll know what I mean. Okay. I definitely recommend it. It's only short. It's only about 200 pages. So
I'm just looking at the quote on the front there. It says absolutely down the bottom, absolutely transcendental.
Yeah,
that's high praise indeed.
Yeah,
says
absolutely transcendent.
Gay.
Roxane Gay. I don't know who that is. Yeah,
it's Roxane Gay. She's like a cultural commentator, isn't she? In a style of Bonnie Greer or something.
Yeah, like Bonnie Greer.
Yeah. Heavy going book, but definitely worth a read if you're
that way inclined.
in a space where you can.
Yeah, not on the beach.
No, it's not.
Probably not on a beach.
It's not. No, not a light read.
Unless you're that way inclined.
But yeah, I hope I've done a good job of explaining it. It's quite hard to.
Well, fittingly, if what you're saying is true, I think that is probably the most fitting way you could have described it.
Yeah,
most likely. Saying it's silly how I'm going to be talking about this.
It's got a very odd cover. I don't really like pink and green together.
It's got flowers. Is that flowers?
Yeah.
It's got it's poppy heads.
It is. I really actually like the cover, but
Opioids.
I don't.
Opioids.
Yeah, it doesn't. It makes it look like it's going to be a much happier book.
Yeah, it does.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of was like, oh, this looks nice. Yeah. And it looks like it's going to be set in the 20s as well.
Yes, I know what you mean.
It's quite Art Deco.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But the cover made me want to read it, so yeah. But yeah, that's Transcendent Kingdom, so read it if you want to.
Maybe. I'll see. I'll see how I feel. Right. Now, this one.
Yes.
No one is talking about this. Patricia Lockwood. And I described this to Miss Huntley the other day, and Miss Huntley didn't look like she was overly enamoured with the prospect of reading this.
No, there's been quite a lot on Twitter about it, that it's really important.
Well, I can see why there's loads on Twitter about it when I describe it to you. I think I described it to you as well.
You did, yeah.
But now I've described it to all of you at home. So, to this book, the protagonist is a social media influencer. And she... Oh, hello.
Mrs. Painter.
Hello, Mrs. Painter.
Hello. Mrs. Painter is exiting the building.
She is.
Come join us.
Are we being recorded again?
Yes.
Yeah, what are you reading at the moment?
Just tell us what you're reading.
I'm reading. I've taken my mask
You
off.
do, yes.
I am reading. Hello. The trouble is, I had this problem last time, didn't I? Because it's on my Kindle and I never know the name. But
She didn't pay attention to the title.
Just the book.
it's a sort of thriller. I'm quite enjoying it actually. Look, I did this last time, and now I'm so flustered I can't actually go into my.
Oh, you're among friends here. There's no pressure. You know,
Matty, she can't remember her code.
I thought we were amongst friends.
Well, it's all right. I forgot my photocopying code yesterday. First
There you
time in
go.
I don't know how long.
I'm your friend. Miss Sunny might not be my
Kindle.
friend.
There we go. Yeah, I've got to sign in now. No,
Oh.
I'm not doing that. Anyway, it's about somebody who meets somebody on a holiday in Sicily.
Oh, okay.
And they both have had quite a traumatic few months, and they sort of get together, but then he employs her as a nanny to his son. And then it transpires that his wife has disappeared, and the suggestion is that she might have been murdered. But we don't really know whether the guy's a goodie or a baddie, and so it's that sort of thrillery thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's quite well written, and I can't remember Louise somebody, I think.
Oh, not Captain Corelli's Mandarin man.
No,
Louise. It's not
Oh no.
Oh, Louise. I think it's a
Louise, yeah.
Louis. Right, sorry.
No, I don't think
Louise.
it's of that sort of level. But
Okay.
it is quite good, it's quite entertaining, because it didn't start off as a thriller. I thought it was going to be a sort of love story, and now I don't know, and now I don't really know where it's
Well,
going.
I like those sort of books. That,
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
good. It subverts your expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other one I read last time was, now I do know who this was by.
Do you? Are you sure?
Erskine, is it?
Erskine.
Barbara
Erskine.
Erskine. Yeah.
And that was a sort of in two different time eras. So it was set partly in Roman times and partly in modern day Glastonbury. So it's quite spiritual, and it's also got sort of Christianity in it and things, and Roman gladiators. That was quite
Sounds good.
Yeah, that was quite good. It was very long.
Okay. Let's have a look.
Sounds like an epic, historical epic almost.
Yeah.
She's got
Times
loads,
Legacy?
hasn't she? Put Roman. No, it's not that. If you go into the what's it box, go back up.
What's it box?
No.
All right.
What are you looking
You
at?
wanna go
Sandy?
that
What-
one?
what-
Just
what-
go to Roman.
Oh, Roman.
Roman. Oh, you're as bad as me.
I am bad as you, yes.
Barbara.
I know.
yeah, let's see if I can.
Oh, we're nearly there.
We're nearly there. We're
Two
nearly
old
there.
women with an iPad.
Yeah, exactly.
Roman.
Novel.
Yeah, that'll do.
Oh, that says The Warrior Princess. Midnight is a Lonely Place.
It might have been the. Oh no, none of those sound right. Anyway, it was a good book, readers, and I quite enjoyed it.
Daughters of Fire.
I quite liked the whole
Historical time slip fiction.
Look, I'm talking now.
Oh, sorry. Go on. You liked it.
But I've forgotten why I liked it. But I liked the whole sort of Glastonbury thing, and there's a crystal at the heart of it.
Oh.
Okay.
And I mean, I don't really believe in those things, but it sort of had me a bit believing. So that was good as well.
Well, there you go.
Yes.
Lovely to share.
Thank you for sharing
very
this.
much.
Peter. Always welcome.
Didn't get offered any tea today.
Oh,
Would you like some
well.
Would
tea?
you like some?
Oh,
Thank you very much.
I didn't think you would, so that's why I didn't offer.
Bye.
There you go. This is Peter with a second
This is
appearance
Peter.
in Lit Soc.
Indeed. So, social
Okay, so
influencer.
yes, back to nobody's
Yeah, what we're
talking
talking
about.
about,
Yes.
Yeah, so she's a social media influencer, and she is renowned for viral tweets, essentially, and it's made her famous. And she travels the world, and legions of her adoring fans come and see where she is, see what she has to say about things. But the thing is, she's become so immersed in her social media influencing world that she gets lost down rabbit holes on the internet, and her world is basically all the internet, and so she loses touch with the non-internet world and all of her observations. So the first half, it's split into two parts. It's a very short book, but it's split into two parts, and the first half is it's very stream of consciousness. There's lots of snapshots about observations about seemingly random things, but apparently, I mean, you will know this if you are into your social media. Apparently, a lot of them are culled by the author, Patricia Lockwood. They're culled from actual viral tweets.
Oh, right.
Or actual viral stories. But then something happens in her personal life. Essentially, her mother texts her with two messages. One is, something has gone wrong. And then the next is, how soon can you get here? And it turns out it's something to do with her sister. And essentially, so she now has to... It's a very, very sad... what's the word? Essentially, potential for lots of heartache and grief in the family. And she doesn't know how to process that because she's so lost in the cyberspace. And, she can't articulate it in the way that, we traditionally do. All she can do is keep up with the sort of snapshot tweets and other social media. So it's a commentary on that. So it's quite challenging to get into at first, I would say, because of the writing style. But again, that's the point, isn't it? Because it's like so scattergun.
Yeah.
Because of course, you think of James Joyce, Virginia Woolf. That's the whole idea, isn't it? It's like trying to replicate the traffic in our mind of just chaos and a jumble of thoughts. But of course, this is even more so. It's more externalized now on the internet, isn't it? The fact that you're just jumping from thing to thing, and so that makes it even more challenging. But then, when it does get to the point where how do I process this in our postmodern internet world? It does get more engaging then and more moving. So it's worth persisting with. Whether it deserves to be on the women's prize fiction shortlist, I don't know, but it certainly is different. It certainly is thought-provoking. And it is, Patricia Lockwood, she is a poet by trade, so it is beautifully written. Now, page 69, page 69 is the start of part 2, but, but it doesn't actually, the two texts don't actually come through at the start of.
Okay.
But here we go. There is still a real life to be lived, and there are still real things to be done, she thought one night, helping a friend wash a fine splatter of possum blood off her hands, face, hair. There is still a cut and dry, the black and white. But when they walked into the backyard the next morning with a long-handled shovel they had bought specifically for the purpose of disposing of the concrete evidence of the deep, the wild, the red blood jet, the possum had disappeared, not dead at all.
Oh.
Okay.
So, what is real? Gosh.
Cool.
I'm not even going to read the next one. So, yeah, and that's what it's like. That was a paragraph, and then it goes on to something else completely.
Oh, I see. Right.
Okay.
And
so
that's
quite meta.
It is very meta.
Yeah.
So some of them are like literally 3 lines.
Okay.
Mostly though, it passed into you until she had no idea where she ended, and the rest of the crowd began. And that's one snapshot. And I think that is her with the when she goes going around the world, meeting her adoring social media acolytes. So yeah, so that's known as talking about this. Sally Rooney likes it.
Okay.
She of Ordinary People fame.
Sounds similar.
Yeah.
I
So
thought it was a non-fiction book.
I can see
based
why
on
you
the
would.
cover.
I can see why you would. Yeah.
I don't know why. Just
It certainly is going to split opinions, I think. Reading Patricia Lockwood feels like looking through a kaleidoscope built by a mischievous sorcerer. The world is suddenly rearranged in fragments that are cosmic, wondrous, humiliating, and profane. No one is talking about this as a furiously original novel, alive and unstable.
okay.
Alive and unstable.
Say,
Okay.
Patricia Lockwood's best friend, probably. Now, this is... I've not heard this person, Gia Tolentino, author of Trick Mirror.
No, I don't.
No. So there you go. So that's known as talking about this. So,
All right.
Piranesi.
Piranesi, which I have already spoken about and very much enjoyed when it was published last year. It's set in the house. It is extraordinary, I think, and it's the second novel, not the third book from Susanna Clarke, who wrote Jonathan Strange and Mr. Morell. And it's written in the form of a diary, but you're never quite sure where we are, whether it's real or whether it's a construct, or whether it's just fiction, and when it's set either. because, for example, there are two people who seem to be living in this house, and it's ramshackle, and the sea comes in, and it's all based. She's based it somewhat on Piranesi's architecture, which is fantastical and a bit like Escher pictures. You know, where you go up and you go down. I always think of the beginning of his Dark Materials, where Will and Lyra are on different stairs, aren't they?
Yes.
The Labyrinth.
Yes.
Okay.
Movie.
There we go.
Yes.
There's a Labyrinth reference there.
It's very aware of nature, but it's also very much aware of architecture, and there are lots of different. I've said this in our previous Lit Soc. There's loads of allusions. In fact, I can't. At the edge of my brain are these. This architecture, and it's not to do with Piranesi, it's to do with something else, but I can't remember what. The 88th Western Hall, I can't think where this sort of image is coming from. Second entry for the 20th day of the 6th month in the year the albatross came to the southwestern halls. Well, the albatross, of course, is the Ancient Mariner, but also Narnia. And it also is sort of the Magic Castle by E. Nesbit, where they have
dense alluding here.
Yeah, dense alluding. The full moon declined westwards. The light in the hall diminished, and the constellations grew brighter in the window opposite the doorway. And constellations, window, doorway, full moon, light, hall—they're all capitalised. I made notes of what constellations and stars I saw. At dawn, I slept for a few hours, and then I began the journey home. As I walked, I was thinking about the great and strange knowledge which the other says will grant us strange new powers. So there's sort of this mystical element as well, which of course you do get with Susanna Clarke. And also we're on the back it seems to me that we're partly on the back roads of the Northern Kingdom from Jonathan Strange and Mr. Rennerell. And I realised something. I realised that I no longer believed in it. Or perhaps that is not quite accurate. I thought it was possible that the knowledge existed. Equally, I thought it was possible that it did not. Either way, it no longer mattered to me. I did not intend to waste my time looking for it anymore. This realisation, the realisation of the insignificance of the knowledge, came to me in the form of a revelation. What I mean by this is that I knew it to be true before I understood why or what steps had led me there. When I tried to retrace those steps, my mind kept returning to the image of the 192nd Western Hall in the moonlight, to its beauty, to its deep sense of calm, to the reverent looks on the faces of the statues as they turned, or seemed to turn, towards the moon. I realised that the search for the knowledge has encouraged us to think of the house as if it were a sort of riddle to be unravelled, a text to be interpreted, and that if we ever we discover the knowledge, then it will be as if the value has been wrested from the house, and all that remains will be mere scenery. So it's sort of like a Mayan temple as well, isn't it? It's the numbers are important, and I do sometimes think if he's in a computer game as well.
Yeah,
It has that kind
yes. And who's the other, which is a bit sinister, and this arcane knowledge, and obviously he's decided that he doesn't want to know anymore. And it is a mystery as well. It's very beautiful, and also it's to do with climate change as well.
It's really
Plenty
just got a bit
going
of
on.
everything.
Plenty going on. Oh yes, I mean, worthy to me. It's worthy to be on the shortlist. Very much
I
so.
think it sounds better than the other ones. I read this one, but,
No, but
having read the Patricia Lockwood, it does sound better. So I definitely want to read that.
it's not like anything I've ever read before. Did you find that? It feels like its own. It's influenced by a lot of other things.
It's influence, isn't it? But yes, but it's
really
also really
Yeah.
different. It does. I mean, I've never played video games, but it seems to me it's like the different levels and
Yeah.
different, and yet not at the same time. It also reminds me of Borga,
Okay.
in terms of the the labyrinth
Yes.
and
I should probably listen King again. Of
Yeah.
course.
and it's worlds within worlds. It's like it's string theory too.
I love how
Nothing we
they
mentioned at Litsoc before.
seem to like drip little bits
Yes.
of information in And they never make a big deal out of it because obviously it's all from his perspective. So he'll find something. I don't want to spoil it, but he'll find something that he just thinks is inconsequential. But as a reader, you think, what's that doing there?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
completely bizarre.
Yes.
For what you think you're reading.
Yes.
I don't know. It can just one little thing can completely change your whole idea of the book, which is really well done. Yeah, I love that.
I think
about
it's lovely. Erin Morgenstern. A gorgeous, spellbinding mystery, a treasure washed up upon a forgotten shore, waiting to be discovered. David Mitchell, what a world Susanna Clarke conjures into being, what a tick-tock of reveals. Piranesi is an exquisite puzzle box. Madeline Miller, which you're reading at the moment, or you're about to, aren't you? A miraculous and luminous feat of storytelling. I already want to be back in its haunting and beautiful halls.
There's a lot of similarities between these two, actually.
I think I'll borrow that now at the end of this.
You do, definitely.
I've been meaning to, and I would have, because Miss Rhea was trying to press it onto me last week. I said, "Oh no, for the women's fiction Lit Soc, I'm going to read a different one."
You're going to like it a lot.
It's good. You're very good like that. You read the other things, whereas
just read the other things. I know what other things those are.
Right, what else have we got?
Well, we should probably. I know none of us have read them, but let's give one each. So you can have this one.
Okay. Yeah, I was actually thinking.
You can have this
one.
one.
Okay.
And I'll have this one. So, Miss Rio, do you want to? Maybe, I guess we just read the blurb and then say what we think.
Yeah.
What we think it might be like.
Oh, I remember reading.
I have actually been.
The review of this. Yes.
It sounds quite depressing.
Yeah.
Great.
Not this one. That one. I've been
Right.
thinking about reading this.
Okay.
So it's essentially about two identical twins growing up together in a small southern black community, but at 16 they run away.
This is about twins too.
Is it? Oh. Interesting. And then they
Together.
diverge as they get older, and it's all about family, community and racial identity. One sister lives with her black daughter in the same southern town she tried to escape. The other sister secretly passes as white, and her husband knows nothing of her past.
Oh.
Separated by many miles and just as many lies, the fates of the twins remain intertwined. What will happen in the next generation when their own daughter's storylines intersect? So I think it starts... I was reading up about it. I think it starts in the 60s. And yes, 1968, and goes between times, and I think it ends in like the 90s, so obviously when their kids are older. But I think it's interesting about how they can be twins and live such different lives. You know, I think that will be quite an interesting part of it.
It's kind of reminding me of Cat Video Land a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. And I think the storyline of the sister passing as white is going to be really interesting.
Yes.
They're obviously, maybe they're meant to be mixed race.
Possibly.
So then they can pass. That's going to be quite interesting.
Yeah,
I
that's
can read that.
So this one, this has got the greatest title. How the one-armed sister sweeps her house.
Yes,
Sherry Jones.
That's very good.
And it's got plenty of praise. Bernadine Evaristow's got some praise there. Mark Haddon likes it. Daisy Johnson. Bernadine Evaristo. Let me tell you about a little girl like you that didn't listen to her mother. And Wilma tells Lala the story of the one-armed sister. In Baxter's Beach, Barbados, Lala's grandmother, Wilma, tells her a cautionary tale about what happens to girls who disobey their mothers. For Wilma, it's the story of a willful adventurer who ignores the warning of those around her and suffers as a result. When Lala grows up, she sees the story offers hope of life and love after losing a baby in the most terrible of circumstances and marrying the wrong man. And Myra Whelan, her story is about keeping alive, trying to make sense of the fact that her husband has been murdered and that she didn't get the chance to tell him that she loved him after all. How the One-Armed Scissor Sweeps Her House is a powerful, visceral novel of lives across race and class and the sacrifices some women make to survive. Interesting. I mean, I'm liking the I like the fact it's about set in Barbados. We haven't had... The last book I read that was set in the Caribbean that made waves over here was the Marlon James one, The Brief History of Seven Killings.
Yeah, and the one about the balloon.
You know about the balloon?
That was on the Booker Prize list as
Okay.
well, wasn't it? Do you remember? They leave Barbados and go by balloon. They end up in...
Oh, is that the one by the woman who did Half Blood Blues? Is it that one?
Yes, I think so.
But the follow-up one. which was they were both Booker shortlisted. And I think she hasn't any other. She's only done 2 books across 10 years, but they both got Booker shortlisted, and it's somewhere over there.
Somewhere.
Which means nothing to you, I know. But so yeah, this one is it's drawing on the story. It's drawing on Caribbean myths and how how the fact there's 2 main characters as well. Because because we've got Lala, and she's the one who's getting told this tale and how it what that's going to mean for her with this losing a baby and marrying the wrong man. And, I don't know where this Myra comes from, because she's not mentioned before. But her husband has been married, has been murdered. Sounds like it was a bit of a loveless marriage, but actually she found. So yeah, it's interesting.
Sounds quite dark.
Yeah.
There's a lot about mother-daughter relationships. All 3 of these black mothers and black daughters. That seems like a real strong theme. It's quite interesting.
So. Yeah, I'll have to give this one a read too, but Piranesi first. But I will get around to this one eventually.
I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you.
Here we are. Well,
so
this is Unsettled Ground by Claire Fuller, which I read the review in the Guardian. It's quite disconcerting. Gosh. Story. Well, yes, it is for our time. What if the life you've always known were taken from you in an instant? What would you do to get it back? Twins Jeannie and Julius have always been different from other people. At 51 years old, they still live with their mother, Dot, in rural isolation and poverty. Inside the walls of their old cottage, they make music, and in the garden they grow and sometimes kill everything they need for sustenance. When Dot dies suddenly, threats to their livelihood start raining down. Jeannie and Julius will do anything to preserve their small sanctuary against the perils of the outside world, even as their mother's secrets begin to unravel, putting everything they thought they knew about their lives at stake. Unsettled Ground is a heart-stopping novel of betrayal and resilience, love and survival. It is a portrait of life on the fringes of society that explores with dazzling emotional power how we can build our lives on broken foundations and spin light from darkness. Now, this is... They've got no access to the internet, so how do you access benefits? How do you access healthcare unless you go to the GP surgery? What happens in the pandemic?
Interesting.
It's how do you register, for council tax? Do you owe council tax? That sort of thing. Have you got an electricity bill, for example? It's all that sort of thing. Funny enough, it reminds me a little bit of the play I was listening to on Radio 3 at the weekend, which starred Simon Russell Beale, which is all that Cecil Sharp. And he met a woman in... I'm trying to think where now. Worcestershire, maybe? Gloucestershire? Not sure. And they'd lived with their mother, and the mother was a repository of folk songs, and so she taught the children, the 2 girls, all these folk songs, and Cecil Sharp basically comes and writes down the ones that they sing him and transforms them into not their songs anymore. Not this is the same, but it's the same sort of rural poverty and isolation. Yes.
And
how you survive.
Just clearly, totally sealing yourself off.
Yeah. Okay. And what happens when your mum dies? So hard.
And that dependent on her in not necessarily in a financial way, but certainly in an emotional way.
Well, obviously, if they're meant to be in their 50s and they still live with her, that's also quite an interesting dynamic.
I know, it's like, what's gone on there?
Yes, that they would be so dependent completely because they've never had any independent. That sounds quite interesting.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not
it's
sure.
It's a very compelling premise.
Sounds a little heavy.
I liked where you described about the sort of the family dynamics, the exploration of that. It almost, and how it's built on shaky foundations. It almost reminds me a bit of Tennessee Williams for some reason. Which, and of course, everyone knows that Tennessee Williams plays a very subtle and understated, and everyone keeps their emotions in check. Not. So it could be a bit like that, or maybe not. I guess
It
we don't
says
know.
a latter-day Daphne du Maurier.
Okay. Yeah. Jamaica Inn?
I was thinking maybe Jamaica.
Maybe Jamaica Inn, yes.
'Cause
Yeah,
that's all
we always think
yes.
of Rebecca first, don't we, when we think of
Yeah,
Tamari, but
yeah, Jamaica.
Yes.
Because that's all about isolation, isn't
Yeah.
it? Really,
yeah.
Yeah.
the middle of nowhere.
This is her fourth book. Our Endless Numbered Days, Swimming Lessons, and Bitter Orange.
I've heard of Our Endless Numbered Days. I haven't.
It won the Desmond Elliott Prize. Swimming Lessons was listed for the RSL Encore Award. That's their second novel award. Bitter Orange. I don't know.
Is Our Endless Numbered Days the one where they're essentially the end of the world and the man takes his daughter to... I haven't read it, but I've heard of it, and he says, we have to leave the city and go live in the country, and they kind of start this life.
Oh, okay.
Is it that one? I think so.
I haven't read it either.
It's the name of an album, according to this.
Oh, because it would make sense with a similar theme of being in the middle of nowhere, isolating yourself and stuff. That's what
Album? Who's the album by?
Peggy, who's taken to a... Oh, yes. It's Survivalist Father. Who
I haven't
tells her
read it,
that's
but-
right, who tells her the rest of the world has been destroyed. But it's not true, is it?
No. I haven't
Yeah.
read it because apparently it's not got a very nice ending, but
Okay.
that's clearly something that she
And he
writes
takes
about
her
is-
in 1976, which is a date that keeps resonating at the moment, does it not?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Interesting.
these three books that we've just talked about, I'm not sure any of them are set up for a nice ending.
Wow.
No.
As in,
I don't know. This
possibly this one. And well,
one has the
actually maybe
potential.
these two might.
Well,
this one might
got
too.
Pyrenees got a
Oh yeah.
a
More or
good
less
ending.
happy ending.
Yes,
Yeah.
More or
I'm
less, yes.
good.
Yes.
You
I
won't.
think
You won't put that down.
Well,
and think,
yeah. Look, this has not got totally damp yet.
no. They're all quite sad, aren't they? They all seem quite.
I mean, when you look at previous winners, this has got a reasonable ending.
We're just looking for some solace, people.
we
It's been a
are,
rough
yes.
year.
Something nice. Secret Life of Bees.
Hamnet. Well, Hamlet's got a beautiful ending.
Because we all know, most of us know what happened to Hamlet.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the power there, that's a dystopia, so you can
Yeah.
imagine
I
that's...
haven't read that.
I read it
Nor
when I was
me.
in Tanzania. And, yeah.
Looks quite intense.
It is. It is. Well, it's the idea that, what would happen if women were stronger than men physically.
Okay.
And yes, it's an interesting idea. But it's not a light read either.
Okay.
We've got Barbara Kingsolver, of course, who know.
An American.
She's
marriage.
I
This
do
is
like Barbara Kingsolver.
Diego Rivera.
Yeah.
And so this isn't going to end well
Oh.
because Lev Trotsky arrives and we all know what happened to him.
Yeah.
All right then.
Even those of us in year 8, you should know what happened to him. Animal Farm.
Animal Farm, yes. Who is Trotsky in Animal Farm? Come on, you've just been teaching it.
Oh, you're genuinely asking me?
I am.
Still.
Oh, right, yes.
What did you think it was?
I can't remember. I just could not remember.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about Snowball having to
He
he disappeared. Yeah, I'd forgotten about him. Sorry.
That's okay. That's it. Miss Honey has
It's a
got
long
a
time
formidable
since I
memory,
taught
but
it. Long time
we all
since
have
I
little
taught
Swiss
it.
cheese moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can allow Miss Honey that one because she normally
Yeah.
just is able to instantly recall things
Everything.
just like that. We should probably leave it there. We're coming up to about an hour. Just looking at the time.
Yeah.
Indeed, yes. So we've covered a variety of
we
topics
have.
again. Cinemas are reopening, I believe. They put the whole of the Muppets on Disney Plus. I've probably already said that at Litsoc, which is good news as far as I'm concerned,
Yeah. Yeah,
although I don't possess Disney Plus. Tomorrow's World Cultural Diversity Day, so plenty of different
Yeah, so
reads on
fitting
here.
that we
Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
yeah,
to have the
Yes,
we did.
yes. The museums are open.
Yes,
The theatres are beginning to open.
yes. Shakespeare at the Globe, as
Yes,
you said.
indeed.
We had Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yes, Midsummer Night's Dream is opened. Well worth checking out. You can get a ticket. Not until July are they people standing. At the moment, everybody's sitting in the socially distanced in the
Distance around that, yeah.
pit. Yes, but they're very excited to be open again. So
After
yes,
over a year of being closed.
yeah.
So hopefully next week we shall be outside.
We hope so.
The weather has not been our friend this past
No,
year.
not indeed, not.
But next
No.
week we are, fingers crossed, we'll be back outside and we'll have some of our pupils back with us. And
Yes.
if that is the case, we will talk about, because we have had a lot of
New books.
lovely new arrivals in the library.
Yes, indeed.
So we will be discussing those both in terms of fiction and non-fiction.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we look forward to that if the weather is kind to us.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Until then,
Au revoir.
au revoir. Keep reading.
Keep reading.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.